If we could have everyone up front seated, we'll get started. I know they appreciate all that. This is the work session for November. And before we get started, there's going to be some changes in the agenda. Danny, did you want to cover those up front? Are you ready?
Well, the agenda's not set yet,
Okay.
so we're just talking about it, but I was gonna talk to you when you get to the committee, but I can do it now.
Do it now.
Don't we have to say pledge?
No, that's Thursday night.
Oh, never mind.
So, the first items are A through E. Oh, I was talking loud enough. A through E. So, as you all know, I sent you a message last Friday saying that the Walton County did not receive the certified letter that Tim's required to send by law, stating that the annexations, potential annexations. So we cannot hear those cases. So therefore, we need to hear them in December. Tim has re-advertised and has emailed the applicants to let them know that y'all will hear this at the December work session and then vote at the December council meeting.
Okay, for those that are here for that purpose tonight, we certainly apologize. I don't know, Tim, has this ever happened before? Not to our knowledge, but we send everything to the county when we have to have their approval to make a change, and we all send it certified, and they did not receive this certified information, and now it's past the time that they can have their meeting and give us the okay, and we have reset the packages to everyone involved. So it's one of those things that happen occasionally, but not very often, thank goodness. So we will hear all of these cases in December.
December 5th.
Sorry?
December 5th.
December,
I have to look and see. I believe it's
too.
5th and 8th.
I hate to give you an answer.
Yes.
I think it is the 5th and the 8th.
No. I mean, the reason we didn't take them off, because I don't want the public seemed like we were taking especially zoning cases off the agenda without me publicly saying why we're taking them off. That's why I left them on the agenda from Friday. The agenda is not set until you set
Thursday.
the agenda on Thursday night. So we can add and remove, but since these are zoning cases, you know, there are certain things we have to do. This, of course, went through Robin as well. And like I said, we had to re-advertise. We'll have to put new signs out. And then you have to have a public hearing again, like I said, in December.
Danny, you have a question in the crowd.
That's the mayor.
What?
This is,
Why didn't we put new signs out? Because a lot of us rearranged our schedules.
This is not a time for public comments. This is a time to reschedule.
Well, when we find out about things, the city does their best way they can in a timely fashion to put out the information. But it is December the 5th for the work session, and that will be the public hearing day. And the 8th will be the city council meeting. You're correct.
that's why we,
Okay, with that said,
I'd
sorry
just
for
like
those.
to add one thing for the lady who's leaving, that all of the signs will be placed out again, and all of it will be re-advertised again, the same as it was for this meeting.
And again, who can determine what may happen and may not happen in the process as long as some of these processes are?
I think the issue she was saying is that a notice or something should have been put on the website.
This just happened today. It just happened today.
They just found out.
Well, we
They just found out.
we're always trying to get the facts.
They just found out. In their defense, they just found out.
Okay, thank you all for your input. It's not an input time, but thank you anyway. Okay, we'll move to Planning and Development Committee report. Linda Dodd, is there anything else you had to report?
I have nothing else to
Wait,
say.
Mr. Mayor, hold, excuse me. Don't we need to adopt the, I would like to add something to the agenda based on
We'll
emails.
do that Thursday.
yeah, I'm still getting there.
Okay, I'm sorry, Danny. I
Yeah,
apologize.
we do that on Thursday and we add it then.
For discussion tonight?
Yes. So, yeah, so before I'll add some more stuff, because the agenda's not copied yet, so I'm gonna address that two things.
Okay, go ahead. I'll shut up. Thanks.
Letter. So, also to answer your question, from the public, we didn't find out today, we found out last week. want to throw something at me, Cal. So they make the decision to hear it or not hear it. Not I, not staff. It has to go before them. That's why we're doing it tonight. So if they say, no, Danny, we're going to hear it tonight, we got to hear it. But we can't hear it because it's illegal to hear it because the county has not heard it yet. So that's why. So, well, because I don't know how they're going to vote until tonight. So that's why we don't, but because if I'd have said, hey, the council's not going to talk about it, they would have talked about it. And then I've been like, oh, we're silencing the public. That's why it's better to leave it on there than make the note in the public meeting like you're doing, and we're going to have it in December.
I'll also add that, as the mayor and Tim both noted, this has never occurred before. And there was a lot of, looking into what is the best course of action with these cases, what makes the most sense for the council, for the applicants, and for the citizens. And that is another reason why it took a couple of days to come to this conclusion and then bring it before the council.
And I personally feel it's better in December because we'll hear the information, hear everybody's input, and then we'll make a call the same week. This is so unusual. I'll have one more question. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, good evening. I just wanted to clarify, will the planning and development hearing in December be exclusively for the purpose of voting for the approval or the declination of them purchasing that property and developing on it?
No, on Monday night, we will discuss, whoever's here to discuss it. On Thursday night, we will vote on the zoning and the annexation into Loganville. Currently, it's in this county. That's what we're waiting on.
It will not go back before the planning commission, if that's what
Right.
your question is as well.
So they are moving forward.
Well, the planning commission has already heard it. This is the next and last stage, absent the county hearing it in their meeting. So this will come before the council, but will not go back before the planning commission unless the council votes to do so.
And that Monday night will be the second required public hearing before decisions are made.
First. All right, so moving on, another two items that is not on the agenda that we'd like to talk about is, I know Ms. Ann wanted to speak about trees again, the ordinance, before we come to you next month with that. And also, before you, I have a letter of support from Gwinnett County that came today from the Department of Transportation asking our support for a project. It's called SMART Project that they are trying to get grant funding for, so the letter's on your table. And I would ask that y'all would add that to the agenda, giving the mayor authority to sign on Thursday, if you so see fit to do so. That's only two other items I have, Mayor.
Okay, that Singleton Road that it mentions, that is the road right there almost parallel to 85, if I remember my
I believe you're right.
agriculture over there. And they're just asking us to support them since we are part of their county. Okay. Okay, anything else, Danny?
No, sir?
Great meeting so far. Doing good. Okay, we'll move now to Finance Human Resource Committee. Ms. Ann Hunsinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of things on my agenda. The first thing is, and it was mentioned, I believe at our last meeting, where Danny was requesting an increase in general fund limit to 15,000 and chemical fuel to 20,000. I think it's probably an appropriate move, given the price increases, but I'd like to open it up for discussion, and if anybody has any questions, so we could talk about it.
Well, just for the record, so everybody will know, what are the current limits? 75?
7,500 for general purchases and I believe 11,000 for chemicals and fuel.
I did have some comments, and I'll start with the chemical and fuel limit first to 20,000. Most of that chemical, you're asking for more money in your, whatever that is. Authority, right, to do that, because most of those chemicals are for the wastewater treatment plant, correct?
Correct.
And then the fuel is because of the vehicles and the things in the city, right?
Yes, that's correct. When we had a spike in the prices in the summer, we were getting flirting with my limit.
Right.
And, I think we understand that even if I didn't have this, I still have the authority with the charter to grant me emergency powers. This is just a more formality for the auditors, and it keeps so much stuff from coming before y'all, simple purchases. Example, like y'all say, hey, let's talk to the engineer about tree ordinances. Well, that goes over my limit, so then we're gonna have to wait 30 days to come before y'all or have a called council meeting. So these are just general purchases. It's just more of a formality because prices have went up in the last 3 or 4 years.
Right, but I wanted to make a suggestion in so much as the chemical costs and things. Could that not become just a regularly, yearly budgeted item? Because that is directly part of our wastewater plant. It's something that's an ongoing need, and I don't understand why that you have to have authority.
Yeah.
Can we not put that in our,
It's,
just,
it's in the budget. It has its own line item, but the auditors, anytime I have a limit set by y'all, anything over that limit has to be approved by the council.
okay,
So even though it's budgeted, that's why, if you remember a couple of months ago, we talked about at the beginning of the budget, come July, we want to put all the contracts before y'all in one council meeting and approve them all, especially if it's a line item within the budget, like fuel, chemicals. There's certain things that are like Tyler Technology, for instance. By the way, were you adding that? We forgot to add that. That's a budgeted item for our software. The bill come, it's 36,000, so it's got to go before. But even though it has its own line item in the.
so that's what I was gonna say, though, we can't just increase the budget for the chemicals and everything, so that's, I'm just
You
trying.
can, but the auditors we have a set rule that says anything over this amount has to be approved by the mayor and council.
Okay, and
So,
then, okay, go
If
ahead.
you increase that limit, that's just less invoices coming to you. Take, for instance, the Home Depot bill. It may be over $7,500 for the whole month. Typically, they're not, but we're getting to flirting with that number that it could be. So that was just an example of some
Okay.
invoices that we have annually.
Okay, and then my other was about your spending limit, right now it's 7,500, correct?
That's correct.
And the previous city council, they voted to move it from 5,000 to 7,500, and that was, at that time, noted that it was because of the PPE, the COVID restrictions, that you needed to be able to buy the things, and the prices of those were so high.
Yeah.
And I understand that things are getting higher and there's more cost out there and everything, but we're potentially looking at doubling what you would have the ability to spend without asking city council.
correct.
And to me, city council, we're part of the checks and balance system in the city. And we all know that the majority of the things that do come here would fall well below that $15,000, but they're over your $7,500. And we're spending taxpayer dollars to do that. And I just think there's a lot of things that the citizens wouldn't be aware that we are spending money on if we raise it to such a high limit. So we raised it $2,500 last time. Is it possible that we could just go from $7,500 to $10,000 now, and then we still have some sort of checks and balances? The public is still going to be aware that, hey, they're voting on this, they're spending this.
So, yeah, let me talk about the checks and balances now. We can jump in, because I've heard that mentioned about giving the city manager free will to spend how he sees fit. That's not all the case. So literally, there is no less than 5 people that's required by our, what's it called? Internal controls, that I don't write POs. I do approve POs, but I don't write POs. I do not do the checks. Natalie does not do the checks. Another person does the checks. Natalie approves the checks, then it comes to me for a signature. So those takes 5 people to do one purchase order. So if we could take just, one process that comes before the council, it just saves time and money. But, if the council wants 10,000, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with leaving it the same. I'm just saying, we try to speed up the agenda, because there's some certain things that, take precision planning was $12,000. We had to wait a month before I could spend that. And that's, it just costs.
Well,
time.
if you're explaining time like that it's from 30, you're taking something and you're doing a month. But as far as I know, I've heard some talk about, the meetings, it'll make the meetings shorter and all that. And to me, we were elected to do a job, and to me, it doesn't matter if the meeting is 5 minutes or 5 hours. We should be here for that. And I don't have a problem going over these invoices, and because I want to make sure that the citizens know what their money is being spent on, that they don't have to pull an audit report and all that. And so my question has nothing to do with our internal controls. It's more of just keeping things open to the public and that. And if you're spending $15,000, honestly, you'll rarely ever come in here. to ask us.
Well, no, because if it's a contract, it has, no matter the amount, so they'll still have those contracts. Everything that we do has a contract, has to come before y'all. These are just standard invoices, like your power bill, the water bill, we pay the water bill. Trash bill, we pay that.
Well, you've done things like, you know.
It's no different than retirement checks, that's $200-something thousand a year. Payroll, those are all things that doesn't come before y'all, it's because it's part of the budget. But anything that has a significant dollar amount is gonna have a contract with it, which, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's $1 or $1 million, it has to come before y'all because it's a contract. So these are just more of your month-to-month invoices that we were trying to cut down on. But if y'all wanna hear them, I'll be more than happy. So,
Well, we hired Danny to be the city manager, and that's what he does. And we need to trust him. But I trust Danny that he's not going to rob the taxpayers of money that is under the table or that's not being spent. And that's kind of what we're saying. We don't trust you because we want to see every single invoice that comes in front of us. And I just don't think that's feasible for us to do that as a council. And I think we need to trust Danny as our city manager to do the job that we elected him to do. And that's just my personal opinion.
Well, I think that we have to look at it in a couple of different ways, because it isn't necessarily about Danny personally. Danny, what happens, just for everybody to understand, if you had an expenditure that was not in the budget, what happens?
depends on if it's an emergency or non-emergency. If it's an
Well,
emergency.
it still comes before us, I mean, you can.
Yes, so if it's, in an emergency, I have the authority to spend
Correct.
whatever to rectify that emergency.
That's right.
At the next council meeting,
It
I
comes before.
have to come before
That's right.
y'all and say, you need to ratify this by making a motion. We've done that several times this year with the
Yep.
plant.
And if it's
hard-
not an
with the Fire
emergency.
truck, it's hard to explain when people flush their toilet if the sewer doesn't go somewhere.
Agreed.
And I'm only like, well, it was $6,000, so, or $30,000.
And if it's not an emergency and it's just something that's not in the budget, how does that work?
It waits until the next meeting.
Right. Where I'm going with this is that regardless of the amount of the expenditure, we get the financial reports every month. We see that they're in the budget. He can't go outside the budget without our approval anyway, even if it's $10. I mean, to prove a point. And what we're talking about is the percentage of the whole budget at 15 grand is so small that I think we have to, as we're growing as a city, as things are happening faster, we need to take the handcuffs off so that the finance department can do its job. Because even if there's something higher, even if it's $12,000, we have to be able to say, we get to see all of the expenditures here in our packets. The citizens understand, they have to understand that they can't see every single expenditure, and we don't either. I mean, we as the council don't see every PO. That's not our job. That's their job, meaning not Robin, Susan, y'all. So, I mean, I feel like this is just, the times are increasing. 15 grand is easy. And candidly, having worked with a lot of fraud in my lifetime, it doesn't matter how good the controls are. If somebody wants to steal, they're going to steal. And I don't think that a $15,000 limit contributes at all to any sort of theft. That's not personal to you. I just don't think 15 grand is a big deal,
So today, Mondays, I'll sign checks on Mondays.
right?
So, the way it works, accounts payable pays those invoices, she prints those checks off, those checks go to Natalie. Natalie reviews every single line item and every check, make sure it's come out of the correct line item, the correct fund, then they come to me. I verify what Natalie verified and make sure that anything over $1,000 has my signature on it because that's our
Right.
internal controls. Department heads, including Natalie, can sign up to $1,000 without my discretion. Anything from $1,000 to $7,500 for general purchases, including water. Anything for gas and chemicals up to $11,000, I can sign. Anything outside of that has to come before y'all.
Right.
After I sign the checks, then they go to a fourth person who actually puts the checks together and makes sure this PO goes with this check, and then that person takes it to another person to mail it. Those are all internal controls. That way, no one person has control of taking a check. That's why I don't write checks. I only have access to the account because I sign the checks.
Right.
Christie is a signer of the checks. The mayor is a signer. We don't have access to that because that is an internal control.
It's good internal controls.
Yes.
We've never had a finding about controls. I mean, I know in the 5 years I've done it, we've never, I mean, we've had a journal entry date that's been off, but, I mean, when it comes to our internal controls, we have never had a problem with our controls. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's what I thought.
The only thing that's material is when it's a finding that's a material amount.
Right.
Which is what you will find in the back of our financial statements that
Right.
clearly states what those findings were. Most of
Exactly.
the time, they're just not allocated in the proper line. They're there, they're not hidden, they're
Right.
just not
It's
placed
just in the
right-
wrong GL. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And just for everybody's info, just info only, every invoice is subject to the annual audit,
That's right.
and they are really thorough.
Yep.
They really are. So, just for info.
Well,
do
and like I
have-
said, my question had nothing to do with trust. It was a matter of, okay, well, some people question that, and I want to make sure that it was.
Yeah, I understand what
Okay.
you're saying. Yeah, sometimes it's good to let the public know what we're doing. That's what you're saying. And, you know, we can certainly do that. Of course, we do it in our updates, just like, you know, we just signed or gave Robin to approve the contract for Destination Park that he's gonna talk about, I believe, tonight. So, definitely it's over my limit, but, you know, paving, you know, may be on my limit, that we can bring up and say, hey, we're doing this, by the way. It's just streamline our process.
That was some of the examples I was gonna give. Here lately, concrete has cost a fortune. So just when the water department does a
Oh,
cut,
Thank you, that's a good one.
a cut for cut, I mean, I'm talking no bigger than this, and it's over his limit. And it's just about every single one here lately. Every single one of those would have to come to y'all if they weren't trying to keep it under his limit. And it's getting harder and harder for them to do that with concrete and repair and those kind of things. I'm telling you, equipment's getting that way. Our things that we're having to buy for Public Works and the water department, that their heavy equipment, even replacing things in the building are getting to that point.
Give you an example, ammunition.
Yeah,
What
Oh,
is it,
yeah.
$10,000,
almost
$11,000?
10,000.
Well, that answers a lot of my questions, because you're saying, I mean,
Yeah.
that the budgeted items, all these items that
These
you're
are all in
talking
the
about were all
budget,
budgeted
Right.
items. You just can't
Yeah.
approve it.
I mean, yeah, you're gonna have things, everything's not budgeted, because we can't think of everything, but usually when water leaks happen, they're always in their driveways, and we have to tear up a driveway, and that's, you know, contractor knows our limit. You know, we have a contract with him, a set price. It's not that he says, oh, I can go up to 75. It's not that. We have a contract with him for a set price, but with fuel surcharges now they're doing again, minimum loads of concrete, and then we get the phone calls from the public, hey, it's been 3 weeks, been a month, been 2 months, you haven't fixed my concrete yet. Could be a reason. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Does
Thank you.
anybody else have any other questions?
Yes, I have one. I was just wondering what was the thinking behind the 15 and not say 20 or 10? Just 15 is just the standard number
Just
that
double.
y'all been seeing recently, so that'd be good for a while. So we wouldn't have to come back in 6 months and go up on it again, in other words.
Yep. Usually, because Brandon came to me and said the load of chemicals now is $16,000, and there's only one place that has it, and you can't not have it.
Do you want to vote on Thursday, or would you like to consent it?
I
I'd
think-
still like to think about it, so can we just vote Thursday?
Absolutely.
Well, we can't vote tonight, but I'd like for us to vote on Thursday.
Vote, yeah, that's what I said, vote on it
If it's
Thursday
got
or
this
put it on
many
consent.
questions,
Yeah,
sure.
okay, all right. The next item in the agenda is a pension payment. Danny recommended, and staff recommends, after looking at the general fund and enterprise, to move $250,000 from the general fund, $250,000 from the enterprise fund, and make a pension payment for 2023 into the system. That's just a standard payment to keep our percentages, our funding percentages where they need to be.
What will this amount take us to on the funded percent? Have you figured it?
We don't know until the actuary. We looked last audit, it was 90%. We know the market has took a hit here lately, so I'm sure it has came down. I have seen it as low as 78% since I've been city manager. That's just keeping our fund balance up high, because currently we make minimum payments every month. So we would like to take some of that unrestricted and move it to the pension.
So we're talking total 500,000.
Yes.
Any
Would
questions?
everybody be okay with that on consent? Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Christie, can you make sure you put on the minutes 250 from each fund, so for auditors?
Okay, and we will now move, thank you, Ann, we will now move to public safety, Jay Bowen.
Thank you. Chief Lowry, would you join me
Mayor.
at the podium here?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Councilman.
Yeah.
We need a, Tyler contract came, that's our accounting software. It's 60,
It's under, it's at the end.
70,000. We need to add that to you for finance.
now or just add it Thursday?
It's up to you.
Let's say let's add it Thursday.
Okay, we'll bring it to you Thursday night.
Anybody have any objections to that?
That is a budgeted set item. It's
That's just annual.
It's over my amount.
Okay.
Chief Lowry,
Still
thank
will
you
be.
for, we good? Okay, let's do this together tonight. Masters Car Club donated $10,051.92, to which you're going to buy ballistic shields. Tell the audience about this, please.
Well, Mayor and Council, what the ballistic shields are, I'm sure you've probably seen them on TV and in the movies and things like that with police officers, SWAT guys and whatnot. They use them to move up on armed people that may shoot at them. And this particular model that we're looking at, which is a exclusive distributorship with the vendor that you got before you, they're rated to stop rifle fire because unfortunately that is something that police officers and deputy sheriffs and law enforcement of every kind is seeing more and more these days. The purposes for these are response to active shooter type incidents, rescue work where you've got somebody that's out in the open. It basically gives you portable cover that you can move with you. We have a couple of those now that are quite dated, honestly, and the model that we're looking at, it's a completely different design, and both Assistant Chief and I have had quite a bit of experience with them in our younger and more bulletproof days doing SWAT, and I can tell you that the design we're looking at is far superior and a whole lot lighter in weight than the things that we carried around. We believe that it would, the best application of them would have 2 per patrol shift, which is a total of 8 of these. And of course, in any significant critical event, we would have guys coming in with additional ones if needed. But if we have 2 on each shift, we've got 2 out there 24 hours a day. They will have lights on the front of them. They're marked and say police, all those kind of things. The total cost for this is $10,015.92. And as Mr. Boland noted, Masters Car Club donated us as proceeds from the Back to Blue Car Show in October, $10,500, and that's what we'll use to fund this with no taxpayer money involved.
And for those new to City Council, they do this every year? Last year was about 10,000?
This year is the 3rd year.
Last year we bought rifles, was it rifles?
No, last year we bought AEDs, the
Oh, that's
auxiliary
right, that's
devices,
that's right.
and the first year we bought all of our officers ballistic helmets.
Helmets, that's right. So I'd like to put that on the consent agenda for Thursday, since it's donated money, no taxpayer. Good? Excellent. Number 2, all right, let me run with this and then you
All
jump
right.
in. We have let's see, officers that are DE agent, they work for the DEA.
Yes.
Okay. We have a vehicle, Dodge Durango, 80,000 miles, ridden hard, put away wet, and it blew an engine.
It did.
$13,000, we can't find an engine for it.
They'll
Yeah.
take our money,
Yeah.
but they won't tell us when they could potentially.
Right, so eventually
deliver.
that'll go back
Yeah.
into service. In the meantime,
Yes.
we have a state contract to buy a replacement vehicle, but the DEA does not want us to send an unmarked police car because it
Right.
kind of gives away the whole
It-
undercover part of the DEA. True?
Yes, this is true. When we initially sent Dodge Durangos up there with those officers that work on this task force, those were not as commonly used for unmarked police vehicles. But since they have been on the state contract for the last couple of years, they look like what they are, unmarked police cars, which
So-
really doesn't work
Right.
when you're trying to surveil drugs.
So like, we can get Tahoes and Explorers, but that's not gonna work. So,
Not gonna work.
what we typically do is he'll come in with a vehicle and we'll approve it. In this instance, and this is the first time we're doing it, and maybe we should have done this prior, but,
Yeah.
we're doing it now. Chief wants us to give him a not-to-exceed $50,000, which will come from the 2019 Walton County SPOS Fund, to purchase an undercover vehicle for our agent.
Yes.
Here's the reason why. Nowadays, and I didn't realize this, a lot of this information you can find online, I guess, or pay for it, the license plates. Basically, what they're
We
doing
have
is they're
run
trying to
into
protect the agent.
Yes, we're trying to protect their identity and the vehicles that they drive. We have run into a problem where it's a long convoluted story, but the long and short of it is, we have the ability in the state of Georgia to apply for and receive undercover tags for these type vehicles. And we have done that, but those tags, there's nothing to do with us, but through a loophole from the Department of Revenue, every one of those vehicle tags throughout the entire state is now available through LexisNexis. And that's a real problem.
Do you want to be discussing this?
What?
I thought we were going to keep this private.
Yeah, we are, we're gonna skip
Well,
over it.
So that makes this even more,
Because, see, we're not dealing with
No problem.
just guys making bathtub crank. These guys are dealing with cartels, so.
that's exactly what they're
Right?
doing.
So
Yeah,
we
that's
just, we
exactly
need
what they're doing.
$50,000 for the chief to get an unmarked vehicle for our agent, and eventually we'll get that Dodge Durango back on the road at some point in the future.
Jay, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Will that $50,000 also insure, like, does it need to be armored and all that? I mean, is this
Not
gonna
armed, but
be
that
enough to-
will include the equipment.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure that we're
Yes,
going to be able to
yes.
include the equipment. for
That is including
Okay.
equipment, yes, ma'am.
And am I hearing you're planning to put the Durango back on the road sometime?
Yes, when Ross, the director at our maintenance shop, has put a lot of effort into finding engines, and he has found an engine or two, but they won't fit that vehicle. We will, and then we'll in all honesty, we'll probably end up with a used engine, which I really don't want to send back to an agent who may go to work and back today, or he may have to drive to Arkansas. He needs to have the most reliable vehicle, because they're so far from our area and our shop at times. So we will definitely be putting this vehicle back in service, but with, like we're talking about, with the price of a lot of things going up, I mean, we want to be good stewards, and I just don't see it as physically responsible to put over $13,000 in a $40,000 car, so.
This particular, not the particular agent, but to kind of include everybody in, we had a bust recently, $3.9 million, that we participated in, so, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can we put that on consent for tonight? Sure. Good, everybody?
No, so I'm just out of curiosity,
Yes, sir.
when we equip a patrol car, I mean, you said it's all included in this, but
Yes.
what, is it gonna be the same equipment? It
No,
seems like,
it's-
this seems low to me.
No, that's a good question. No, we don't use exactly, they do have a siren, but those things are concealed in the vehicle. Sometimes where Greg and I may have a whole bunch of switches that are visible from outside the vehicle. These are hidden either in the console, under the dash, and it may be one switch that activates everything. The lights are as concealed. They do have to have some emergency lights in them. But as far as the same amount of lights that would be required for a marked patrol unit, no, they do have to have some. And we buy models, and they make things for this kind of application. So they are as concealed as they can be.
Chief, let me ask you something. You've
Yes,
never
sir.
been one to ask for too much, but is 50 enough?
That's what I was asking, Jay, that just seems.
I think so, based on, and look, I will tell you that Assistant Chief has spent a great deal of time in the last 2 weeks trying to find a vehicle. We just didn't have anything that we felt was appropriate. We believe that we can purchase a vehicle at that amount.
Should we go 60 and just, I
Yeah, you
mean,
can raise my limit to 60 and then we don't have to come for y'all.
no, I'm being serious though, because I got a feel he's gonna come back to us.
I think they've done a lot of work with this 50. I think it's.
Greg, you good?
We're
If you
okay.
need more money, you just have to come back to us. No
All
big
right.
deal.
Well, this is kind of pressing, right?
Not a
Well,
contingency.
We
10%.
needed it yesterday, so yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah. But we believe that will be sufficient.
Okay. All right, so that'll go on consent. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We had a donut dash back in October. There'll be a presentation Thursday night. Chief Lowry will present. I'm not going to say any more because I'll say too much. So be here Thursday for that. And then also the housekeeping annual contract, Southeast Correction Probation Contract. Kim, anything on this one, or is it just a annual?
It is an annual thing. They have been our probation provider since 2008.
Mm-hmm.
But the law changed in 2017, and they have to renew their contract every 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
This is their 5th year after 2017. The only thing that changes is the fee the probationer pays. The city pays nothing
Okay.
for any of their service. It's paid exclusively by the people that are on probation.
Okay.
That was one heck of a contract.
Yes,
It spells out everything.
I tried.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Appreciate it. So consent, we good for that?
Kim, has the judge reviewed this?
Yes, and the judge has signed it. It's just awaiting the mayor's signature.
Thank you.
How's the judge doing?
He's doing great.
We all caught up from COVID?
Yes, we are.
Good job. All right. Thank you
Fine.
so much for everything over there. We appreciate you. That's all I have for you tonight, sir.
Okay, thank you, Jay. We move to Transportation Committee report. Bill Duvall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing that I was going to mention tonight is the Destination Park contract is going to get underway. Just to remind everybody, this is going to be putting water, sewer, and sidewalks all the way to Destination Park, and then getting our bathrooms constructed. The work will start in November. It's going to finish up by June. Anything else on that? It's a great thing. We've taking lots of kids out there, and they need bathrooms, so this is good. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Boy, do we. We hear that quite often. I mean, no kids ever have to use the bathroom when they leave home. It's always when they get to the park. We know that. Okay. Thank you, Bill. And we'll move to Public Works Facilities Committee. Melanie Long.
I have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll move right along to the, thank you, Melanie. We'll move right along to the Economic Development Committee. Brandon Whitfield.
I have no actionable items, but I would be remiss not to remind everybody about the Veterans Day ceremony at the Legion this year. It's always on the 11th of the 11th month at the 11th hour. And it is a good program to go to. We've been going the past few years. It's really fun. Last year, we had a 5-star general there. And it really means a lot to the people that are there. Also, we have our Christmas parade coming up and tree lighting. And we're having the Festival of Trees. I believe they start setting up on the 28th or 29th on end of this month, November.
And the parade date is December the 3rd.
Yep.
Also, for those that do attend the veterans, and I'd love to fill that building down at the American Legion, I really would. They deserve it. Many of us would have a hard time learning how to speak German, and I'm one of them. So I'm happy with my English, and I want to stick with it. But there'll also be a free lunch provided by Tim Stewart's family. So just for information. Okay? We need to move now. Thank you, Brandon. We need to move to City Manager's report.
Contracts.
Okay.
Tyler Technology contract amendment. Last consent. Sorry? I'm gonna take some time at this next one. Councilman Boland, you're gonna stay here till 10 o'clock. Tyler Technology contract amendment. This is to remove ESS time and attendance since we went with, was it UKG? So, if you got any questions, Christy Ash will be more than happy to answer those.
So this is an old system, and we'll save right at $5,000 a year by taking it out of our system. Gosh, a win-win, except for the people that provided the software before. Any questions? I guess that will be under AM for Thursday night, huh, Ann? On the consent? Everybody okay with consent? Okay. Very good.
Jenny's going to the podium, everybody. Are you getting on? Bathroom break.
I'm gonna move it back. Yeah, this is one of the most important things we'll be talking about for some time. So, short of it is, I need authority to negotiate LOST, which is Local Option Sales Tax. It's a 10-year agreement between the cities, qualified cities in Walton County and the county as itself. Walton County will be making a recommendation on a percentage tomorrow night. I plan to attend. Hopefully, they will let us speak. We have been trying to come to an agreement since July 14th. State law says you cannot negotiate until July 1. We had our first meeting July the 14th, and since then have had several meetings. You have 60 days to come to an agreement. At the end of the 60 days, if you do not come to agreement, you go to non-binding mediation. We did that last week. Still no better off than we were before we went. The county is set firm in their numbers of 72%. Currently, the county gets 65% of every cent spent in Walton County. The cities gets 35%. That's split among City of Loganville, City of Monroe, City of Social Circle, and the City of Walnut Grove. Currently, our percent is 10.4, I believe. Monroe is a little bit higher because it was based off of population in 2012. We started negotiations with a 60-40 split. That got no attraction with the county. Since then, we had made 11 good faith offers to the county with no headway. Our last offer was last week at 68.32. The cities has came off 3% of their number and gave it to the county. The county still says no. They want their 72% because they say it's theirs. They have the data that proves it's theirs. We have the data that says different. Somehow we got to come to an agreement. If this is not accepted by all four parties, we lose it come December 30th. And then you will have to make a decision on how to replace that revenue. And currently, last year, we brought in $1.8 million to the city that went and offset the millage rate for the citizens of Loganville. So all cities and all in the county would have to decide what to do. For the county, it's $11 million a year. Monroe's $3 million. Social Circle's roughly $1 million, and then Walnut Grove is like $292,000. We encourage you to contact your commissioners, talk to them, tell them we got to come to an agreement, because this is being paid for by everybody that comes to Walton County, no matter where you at. If you buy something, that 1% goes to the county and goes to the cities to offset your taxes for general property. I don't know why we're having such a hard time getting the county to come to an agreement. Everybody wants more. We all know that. We want more, but we're willing to give in to make this deal go through, because I don't know how the county and the cities, elected officials, are going to explain to the public how we couldn't come to an agreement of $17 million a year. That's what it brought in last year in Walton County. They have it projected potentially bringing in $300 million in 10 years. That's a lot of money that we're arguing about. And we sent emails today, you all saw them, to all the elected officials, telling them we need to come to an agreement. I don't honestly know why the county's fighting this so hard. They say it's theirs. Like I said, we say it's ours too. So they're using what's called ACCG. We're using GMA. Those are the associations that the county belongs to. We belong to GMA as a cities, Georgia municipals. There's 8 criteria that the law says you should look at and take into consideration: population, services, point of sales. We have made an argument with the county. I personally have, along with City of Monroe, that if you come to the Walton County line at Gwinnett County and you go down 78 towards Athens, Tell me how many shopping centers you pass that are not in the city. They're not. All the growth, all the money that comes from the cities, we know that, we can prove that, but they do not want to listen to that because they know that it's an argument for us. Their remark is, well, those are county residents as well. That's true. If you live inside the city limits of Loganville and Walton County, you pay two taxes. You pay a Walton County tax, you pay a city tax. The law says that loss is to be given credit to all citizens. So that's another argument the county makes is their county residents are only getting this much of credit towards their tax bill and the cities get more. That is true. But that is a credit on paper. It's not money in your hands. That's what they keep saying. Well, this is credit that they're losing out on. It is a number on a piece of paper that says if we didn't have this, technically, this is what you would pay. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. That's the decision y'all would make. Right now, it's 3.6 mils. That's what 1.8 million is against our digest. It's 3.7 mils. So if he lost it, theoretically, you'd have to raise taxes to that. I don't see that happening at all. Maybe you raise it a mil and we cut somewhere else. We have to make it balance. So that's why I call it a smoke and mirrors number, because who knows what the millage rate if you lost it, because you would have to do different things. I don't think any elected official is going to raise their millage rate 3 to 4 mils in 1 year. But that's what we're talking about. Anytime you talk about money, you know people have a little passion about it. That's why we're willing to give into the county and give them 3%, which is $500,000 per year based on last year's number. So we're giving them $500,000, and they said, no, we need more. We want 72% versus 68%. So I'm going to go tomorrow at the county courthouse. They're having a called meeting to set what we've been told, a hard number to deal with the cities. We told 72%. I don't know what the county's doing. Honestly, I don't. I think they want this to go away so they can do what's called HOST. So HOST is Homestead Option Sales Tax. What that does is the money that's generated would replace your property tax for the county, only for the residents. It doesn't do any taxes for the business owners. It doesn't do any tax for for investment properties. They still pay the same tax. It would alleviate, in theory, the property tax for Walton County. You'd still pay the city tax. But what that does is it sends a message to all the cities, because we get nothing of that if it's passed. But that has to be voted on by the citizens in a referendum. Just like you're voting now on T-Splost, it would go before the residents of Walton County in 2 years to be voted on. I asked the chairman this: what happens if it doesn't pass? How are you going to replace $170 million? How do you do that? Why are you willing to gamble on that? I don't like to pay more than I have to in taxes, but I'd rather everybody pay it than just myself, because I am a county resident of Walton County. You all in this room are a Walton County resident. So it's just banging my head against the wall sometimes dealing with them when to me, it's so simple what we're talking about.
Definitely some hardball being played.
There is, and you know.
There's some bridges being burnt already.
Yep, and
There's
that's
some funny math.
the other thing. The mayor was involved in all but one of these meetings. He knows how heated we got as city managers with the county, because we're literally arguing over $3 million over 10 years, and I just don't understand. Our relationships, to me, is worth more to that than destroying it with Walton County. We do use them to help us with fire, just like we help them. But if I have to start cutting services, that's going to be an issue we have to make a tough decision on.
So if he doesn't budge, we're talking about David Thompson.
We're talking about Walton County.
Walton County.
He's one vote of 6,
Okay.
or 7.
And if they don't budge, what's the worst-case scenario the residents need to hear?
So then the cities would have to agree to take the 26%. We're currently at 35% of that 1 cent. We would have to agree to take 26%, which to us.
Or it goes away
Or it goes away.
completely.
That's
And it
right.
has to be half of the population of Walton County for the cities. So Walton County can approve it, but then you have to have 50% of the municipality's population to go along with the county. One entity cannot approve it or not approve it. It has to be the county as a whole plus 50%. So for us, say Monroe said, no, we're not doing it. Loganville, Walnut Grove, Social Circle makes up 50%. City of Monroe and Social Circle makes up 50%. So say hey, we're not signing. Monroe and Social Circle could do a deal with the county, and then we essentially would be left out. The cities have stuck together, because that has been discussed in the county, that try to get, 50% of the population. So what that does is put the cities against one another, and we have assured Monroe, we're not gonna, I don't play games like that. That's just some crooked, low-down politician stuff there. I wouldn't be a part of it, and if they told me to do it, I'd be like, y'all can go do it, I'm not doing it. Because that is destroying our relationship. That's who we buy our water from.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Because you just made a statement that kind of throws me off here. You were saying that not one entity can agree with the county. It takes 50% of the population. And you said if we didn't sign it, but say Monroe and Social Circle did, you said then we're left out. So you mean if they agree, then we don't get any of the money? If they make the agreement, then the city of Loganville
So if we
is
say
left
we're
out
not
that
going
way?
to do anything, and they made agreement, essentially you could be left out. Or we say, you know what, we're not agreeing to it, but we'll go with 26%. That 26% gets divided among those 4 cities. So they can make the deal, they would still include us,
Okay,
but they can
was-
approve the deal without us saying no. Right
Okay.
now, we've been unity making our decisions as a whole. Now, it hasn't been easy, trust me. We've had talks in some cities like, hey, this, yes, we're gonna lose this, but in the long run, we're gonna make it because we all know we're gonna grow, hopefully, our revenue.
Right, but when you said we were left out, I want to make sure, even if they agree.
Well, I left out of the decision-making
Okay, that's
process,
what I
not
want
of
to
the money.
I want to clarify
Yes.
that.
So we would have to raise taxes.
To make up that revenue, yes.
I'd like to point out one thing too, is that the cities from, kind of outside looking in, the cities have really, and Danny's been very involved in this, bent over backwards and done something that I never do in negotiation just because they are trying so hard to work with the county. And Danny's right, that has been bidding against themselves 11 times. They make an offer, county comes back with the exact same percentage. The cities come back again and say, okay, what about this? The county, in my opinion, particularly in light of a mediation, has not negotiated in good faith. The county has not moved one iota at all and is just standing there ready to let this revenue county-wide evaporate. And so that's one thing I want to point out. When you think about how hard Danny and the other cities have just pushed to get this deal, and the county says no. Basically, the county is saying, we're not going to negotiate with the cities at all unless you take this percentage that we're trying to jam down your throat, we're out. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. The other thing is that the amount of revenue to be lost is really tragic if you think about it, and unnecessary. And the fact that the county is drawing this line in the sand, as Danny's saying, the citizens will suffer more than anyone, because that revenue will be gone for everyone, and particularly those in the cities. And so I think the last thing I want to say is, Danny, you said that the county has their data that support their position, but I don't agree with that. And
Right, nor do I.
no, and so what I would like to point out and urge the citizens to question the county about, Danny can give you every single piece of data that he has used to come to his numbers. He has spent a bajillion hours to make sure that the position presented by the city of Loganville is backed by data and evidence and things that are objective. The county, on the other hand, has not produced any of that background data, despite asking. Am I correct?
Yeah, so the presentation they gave us on the first meeting was a printout from their consultant. Just one of the numbers, if you look at, they talk about service units, losses to offset property taxes. Well, they take the position of there's 128,000 people in Walton County. That's false. There's 96,000 residents in Walton County. That's what the census says. But they count the city residents plus the county as a whole residents to come up with that 128,000, because they're saying that they service the city residents just like they do to unincorporated. And I say you do not. Other than you provide jail, you provide animal control, you provide 911, and you provide the court systems. Ambulance. But, as you all know, you pay taxes on that, just like the unincorporated. I live in unincorporated Walton. My millage rate is 1.3 mils, I believe, different than the city residents because of the fire tax. That's the only difference. But when people come and shop, they're not visiting the jail, they're not visiting animal control, they're not visiting the courthouse. They're coming here buying groceries, going to Walmart to buy whatever. We have data that shows that in the city of Loganville, our occupational tax, business owners have to turn in their revenue for the preceding year. So that revenue, I know what they brought in for every business inside the city limits of Loganville. That is $505 million in 1 year in 2021. That's $5 million of the $17 million that was produced came from the city of Loganville. That's your restaurants, your Kroger's, your Walmarts, not the Gwinnett stuff, because we excluded them because Gwinnett does not have lost. We're the only city in Walton County that tracks revenue like that. But I gave that to the city of Monroe because they do have a Walmart. They do have a Home Depot. And I said, this is what our Home Depot and our Walmart has done. If you look at Kroger, they brought in $79 million in Kroger. Don't quote me on this. I'm just going off of memory, but we do have it. I believe Walmart was $92 million in revenue. So I told the county, I can show you. Well, no. The states doesn't recognize point of sales, which they don't. They don't. Because they would know if they did, the cities would always win. Because the county does not have sewer. That's where businesses come. We put a lot of money into our public safety, our roads, our water and sewer to attract businesses. We just talked about having more businesses in downtown and restaurants. Those all produce revenue for a loss that the county gets equally, just like we all do. We all share it. So, when you mitigate something, everybody has to go away feeling like they lost something. The county hasn't lost anything. We gave them off the bat 68%, 3% than what they're getting right now. Their remark to that was, well, in 2012, it should have been 68, but the county manager or the county chairman then at the time didn't negotiate hard enough. I'm not him. Well, you can't rectify something happened 10 years ago to us. You can't make it up. But it's hard to negotiate. City managers are there negotiating on city's behalf, but we have to negotiate with the chairman of Walton County. Even though the county manager's there, he doesn't have legal authority to negotiate, which I don't know why. That's what city managers and county managers do. But I feel like we've made extremely fair offers 11 times. Like I said, we started at 60-40. It went to we did sliding scales, not sliding scales. We did triggers in there, reduced percentages, and then we just did a flat, our last offer was 68-32. And they rejected it, and we walked out of mediation, and that was it.
What can the citizens and the council do?
Question it. Tell them to do a deal, and, do a fair deal. Just like I said,
Ask them to negotiate in good faith, honestly.
They're holding on to what this consultant has told them. Our consultant has told us 50-50. Well, what I've put in the email today was, when these consultants are gone, we're still working together. And if you let this go, I think it's going to change the working relationship that I have spent decades working on with Walton County. I have been here for over 30 years working with the county.
When I first came in 1997, we did not have a relationship with Walton County. We didn't have a relationship with the other cities in the county. And say what you will about the former chairman and any of the elected officials, Bill Jones was instrumental, along with the chairman, of working together to bridge that relationship between the county and the cities. And I think it is a shame that this is potentially going to destroy it and take it back to what it was pre-1997.
What's the big why? Like, what does your gut tell you? You've been in this room 11 times. What's the why?
They want the money.
He can get.
They want the money.
Well, Robin, you said they're not negotiating in, what'd you call it, good faith?
No, I don't
Okay,
believe
so is
that.
there not a legal action that when somebody's not negotiating in good faith, that you have a next step? Or, I mean, you're just stuck at that?
In my world, yes, I would kneel to the wall for
But
doing that. But in
2012.
Danny's world, the statutory scheme that the local governments are operating under for lost, the General Assembly of Georgia, the lawmakers of the state of Georgia have created this situation where if these entities do not agree, it just poof, goes away. There's no dispute resolution process at all. Now, one thing that they could do is submit to arbitration. And I believe
We have asked that.
that the cities have said, okay, well, let's go to arbitration. And the difference between arbitration and mediation is not binding, it's kind of touchy-feely, the mediator's going back and forth, trying to make a deal, right? Arbitration is not that at all. It's the same pretty much as a trial. And you just give that decision-making authority to a third party. The county has refused to do that.
So have they refused to arbitrate
Yes.
as well? Okay.
So state law changed, it's called the baseball rule, I don't know if you want to talk about that. You know, I feel that the state didn't want to get involved in deciding who gets what in the cities and counties. So they said, you know what, if you can't agree on it, you just lose it. Well, that has caused a lot of friction, and we're not the only ones, it's, you know, a lot of counties right now are going through this with the cities, Barrow County's going through it, Gwinnett doesn't have it. We even tried to make the pitch, let's go to population, because we do population for T-Splost, we do population for SPLOST, but then they say, oh, the law says this. No, the law doesn't say it, because if it did, we wouldn't be having this discussion. The law says you should use these 8 criteria, which population is number 1, number 2. But if you go by that, guess what it is? 66, 34. We even offered that. We got told no to that.
Like Danny said, the impact to us as local citizens is about a 3.7 mil, but also to the county, it's probably another 3 mil on top of that we'd all absorb. So it's even bigger to us as a city.
Right. And their response to that is he has enough reserves to cover it for 2 years until host is voted on, which I said, well, maybe. The mayor has, well, that's a heck of a gamble to gamble that much money on something that may or may not happen. This is guaranteed revenue. If we agree, it continues, and nobody misses a beat. We provide the same service, we work the same. But for us, lost is the second highest revenue behind property taxes. Like I said, it's this year it'd probably be, a little over 2 million this year.
To answer your question, Jay, I think that the citizens, I would urge you to ask the county, where do your numbers come from? What's the data underneath this? Where are the numbers that people as citizens can look at and parse through and understand why the county is so adamant in their beliefs?
Right. If you just want to look at population, go to the U.S. Census, and it'll tell you what the population is in Walton County. DCA has the budgets of every city and county. It has the tax digest. You can go look at the tax digest. That's another thing it talks about is commercial, the commercial digest. Do you know the commercial digest in Walton County, most of it comes from the cities, not the county, because we have all the commercial industries. But they have been told one thing from the consultant, and that's what they're gonna dial on the sword. That was the exact comment he made to us. I will dial on this before I give in.
And how much is it a year, ballpark, like 500?
Last year was per year,
Yeah.
17 million, almost 17.8.
The good thing is the chairman has to have the commissioners vote to accept his position or not. And that could happen tomorrow night.
Is it open to the public?
Yep.
Yeah.
I won't be there. Hopefully they'll let me speak. Monroe cannot be there because their council meeting's tomorrow, and I believe Social Circle's the same night. Maybe it's Warner Grove.
So the county commissioners, that's Banks, Mark Banks, right? Jeremy Adams, Norm Garrett,
No, he's Monroe.
who else? Help me out
Timmy
here.
Shelnut,
Bo Warren.
Bo
Warren.
Warren, Kirk Dicklin, Kirkland.
Yeah, who else?
Lynn?
Who? Lee Bradford?
Lee Bradford.
Okay,
And then the chairman,
okay, and that's Thompson?
David Thompson.
David Thompson. Concerned citizens, let's get on this. You're always throwing a fit about stuff, let's go. What time's the meeting tomorrow?
I believe it's 6. I have to look. It's on the Walton County's
6
agenda.
o'clock.
6 o'clock? Thank you, Mayor. We just want a deal done. We're willing to talk. And we've made that comment. I have personally made that comment twice. If it takes me meeting with the county every single day, that's my job, to make sure this deal's done. We have met, Mayor, how many times have we met? 8,
Bunch.
9 times?
Yeah.
But
The other thing, for those of you that keep the numbers, like I know some people do, the reason the numbers that he's quoting is a little bit different because our population is very close to Monroe's these days. However, for this negotiation, we cannot count the residents on the Gwinnett County side.
That's correct.
That's the reason it gets a little fuzzy sometimes. That's about 3,000, 4,000?
3,000.
Yeah,
roughly.
3,000 people we can't count. It's just the way it is.
So are you guys okay with putting a motion to allow him to negotiate on consent? Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, how do we need to word that negotiation? Because it could be December the 30th, I may have to go somewhere
Right.
and sign. I need
Right.
authority, which I'm gonna be on vacation, so I guess I already told my wife I might have to come from North Carolina to get this deal done, but it's that important. I mean, this is a lot of money.
Well, I think the way we've discussed it, Danny, is that to give
Cities.
Danny authority to negotiate in line with the other cities.
Okay. So we'll make the motion and vote, then probably Thursday night's more appropriate than
Yes.
consent? Okay.
Yes.
If they would just say 68-32, we'd have a deal done.
And then by Thursday night, we'll know what they have done tomorrow night.
I think they're honestly waiting on to see what T-Splosh does, see if it passes or not passes.
They
So
won't
that'll
know
give
by
them-
tomorrow night.
Well, no, but,
I know, I
I
know.
think that's,
That's right. I wish they would know. They won't.
Mayor, we had a question.
Do you get to speak at all tomorrow? You don't know.
Don't know.
Maybe. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have another question, Jamie, with regards to the meeting tomorrow. Am I understanding you to say that those of us that live on the, well, within Gwinnett County, but are also residents of the city of Loganville, cannot take part in
Well-
speaking with the county commissioners, or?
No, you can definitely speak for the city's part. It's just Gwinnett County does not have a host. Lost, I'm sorry. But you are city residents. You do live in the city. What happens, because like I said, that revenue goes in the general fund and it's distributed like all revenue is. It's a lot of people have this myth that it has to go in one pot and only be used for one thing. That's not the case. It goes in the general fund as revenue that we calculate based on what we collect, and that helps lower the millage rate or not lower the millage rate. It's just a part of the revenue, just like business license or alcohol tax or any other revenue that we may collect. But yes, you're more than welcome to come and listen. I don't know if they're gonna let us speak. I have no idea.
But what
you
I
can
would,
definitely call.
what I wanted to make sure there is, the numbers are a little bit skewed from the actual numbers of the whole city of Loganville, because in this negotiation, we cannot include the people who live on the Gwinnett County side.
Nor jobs, nor restaurants, nor revenue, which we've all redacted the Gwinnett out of those numbers.
Did you say 17 million, like a year or like?
A year.
Months? So,
That's total, countywide.
so how much would the city of Loganville next year lose?
Well, I don't know, it's, because
Ballpark
it's
it.
about 2 million,
Oof.
maybe
So this
more.
is at 6 o'clock tomorrow night in the historical
I
courthouse?
believe so, yes.
Yes, that's right.
I'd start emailing and calling.
What was your other question? I'm sorry.
No, I just had a comment, because half of our community is Walton County, and the other half of our community is Gwinnett.
Must be Laurel Mist. Please come.
But the bottom line is it affects you, is what Danny's saying.
Right.
You know, no matter which county you live in, this loss of revenue to the city will affect you.
And like I said, they're gonna make the argument that I'm making now that contradicts what I'm saying, but, when I went to mediation, the attorney that sat there was someone that we all picked. The county recommended him. We said yes. I said, here's a book I have for you. Please look at it. No, that's GMA stuff. Of course, it's gonna say something different. And I said, well, I can say the same thing about ACCG. He goes, well, yeah. I said, so somewhere we gotta come to a mutual agreement. But they didn't look at it.
But did they really present you with something that was prepared by ACCG, or was it just their numbers? Because I don't think you know that.
It came from Doug Eves, which is their consultant. Some of the stuff is like the total digest for Walton County is 755 million. It's actually 452 million. It's on the website. But what they do, they count the county as a whole, and then they turn around and count all the cities again. It makes up the 755. They do that with the population. They call them service units. Well, people are not units.
That was frustrating.
Yeah, that's frustrating because 96,000 people don't pay property taxes. You may have 3 people that live in your house, but only one person pays the property tax. So that's why they tell you to look at the county digest for commercial property. But it's just frustrating.
Well, it is because there's no recognition by the county, I think, that there could be any validity to the position that the cities are taking. And this is when I talk about negotiating in good faith. It's like their way is the right way, and they will not budge or see any difference, which to me, that's not a negotiation. That is a take it or leave it. You're either going to do it the way that I say you're going to do it, or we're not doing it at all.
Right.
Which
So-
I think doesn't hurt any, the people that it hurts are all the people that live in Walton County, quite
So
honestly.
if those that live in Walton County, how many of you have went to the jail, went to the courthouse, went to animal control, went to those county-funded services in this room? 2, 3, 4. The rest of you haven't.
You should ask, how many have been inmates?
But how many of you have traveled inside the city limits on the city limits roads? Every single person in this every person in this room came on a city road today somehow to get to here that you paid for. The county didn't pay for that. The city did. Y'all did. When I say the city, I mean the taxpayers. At least 50%, because that's where 50% of our money goes, is from taxpayers. So when you talk to them, say, look, what do y'all provide? You don't pave our roads. You don't provide fire and police. We do. Even though you're paying for the county jail, you're paying for the patrol that you don't get patrol from Walton County. I mean, how many of you seen a Walton County deputy in your subdivision? Right. How many of you see the city of Loganville? Right.
But Danny, what can we do to play hardball back?
We've done it.
Well, I don't like call it playing because that's what we told them. We're not here to play games. We're here to do a deal because this is adult stuff we're talking about. This is not kid stuff. That's why we've been very honest and open with our offers. But I would just say, put pressure, call them, tell them it's got to get done.
Of the meetings you have, has the other,
Cities?
no, yeah, not the commissioners, have they been in the meeting? So you've only, the city managers have only been meeting with David Thompson and
Yes,
the
so
probably
the-
the city attorney?
No
No
attorneys.
attorneys? Okay.
So the county manager, all but, he's been in every meeting. The chairman has been in every meeting but one. And then the mayors have been in most of the meetings. The meeting we had before arbitration was myself, Monroe, Social Circle managers, Walnut Grove mayor, because they don't have a city manager, and the county manager. And that's when we made our 62-32 with a 50 million trigger. And what that means is, for every $50 million that the county collects, 1% would go in the city's favor. So they start at 68. If we collect 50, it would go to 67. We'd go to 33. And then for every next 50, it would drop. They said, oh, we don't like that because at the end, y'all could, if we make 250 million, you could be at 36. Well, yeah, you're right, we could. So we said, well, give me your offer then. Well, I'm not authorized to make a negotiation. I'm like, John, why are we even here then if you can't negotiate on Kane's behalf?
So how involved do you think the county commissioners have been, or do you think they're even aware of what's going on? Are they being kept in the loop as you've kept most of us in the loop?
I don't, when I called them a couple of weeks ago, they didn't see none of our offers that we asked the chairman to share. City Monroe's, city manager Logan Probst, he asked him, I just asked that you share this information. He goes, I will. And to my knowledge, it didn't get shared, at least to the 2 I talked to. Like I said, I took a book last mediation to give to the attorney for the mediation, and he never opened it once. He did get a spreadsheet that we gave him that he took, but I don't know what he did with it. I don't know if he shared it because we didn't go in the room with him. They stayed in one side and we stayed in the other.
But you've been very good to keep all of us informed.
I
and
try, yeah.
appreciate that. So that's what I was wondering, if they also are having that.
As far as I
from
know,
their-
the cities have done it with their council as well.
Well, thank you for everything, Danny. I know you've been losing sleep over this, so
I
it's
think we,
unfortunate.
our next step, if nothing happens tomorrow night, that I've reached out to Rob and asked her this, is all the cities and the county comes together in one big meeting an open meeting that you all elected officials come to, and the county makes their case to all of y'all, all the elected officials of Walton County, and then the cities make it, and then, because y'all are the ones making the decision, not me. You give me authority, but you're the ones that says it's gonna be this. That's what we would hope to do, but I don't know if the county will come. That's our next step. And we can do that. We just have to advertise it. More than likely it'll be in City of Monroe, in center of the county. we
And for
just
those
need-
of you that were around for the Gwinnett, yeah, we did that at the Gwinnett County
Yeah.
Government Center. We had all the cities and the county there, and it was all day. And they, we worked it out.
We just, give you an example, the first meeting we had, we got an email, the mayor did, said, hey, we're meeting on this day, July 14th, we're gonna talk. We came, guess who gave their presentation? A consultant. So we didn't even know it. We didn't have nobody consultant. That's like going to a trial, me, and then there's an attorney on the other side. I can't argue with an attorney. I can't argue with a consultant. This is all they do. So they, that's how it started, and that wasn't a very good sign of good faith to us. It'd
14
been
days
nice if
late.
it's, hey, we got a consultant going to present, y'all may want to get you a consultant. But guess what, all the consultants are hired by now because all this is going on in majority of the state of Georgia. So everything we've done, we do have a consultant. They've given us some ideas, but they have not been presenting. It's been myself, Logan, or Eric presenting to the county, so I don't know.
And
It's just-
city managers have worked really, really
This
hard on
has
this. They
consumed my
really have.
life.
Lots of numbers, lots of justifications, lots of pushback from other people and stuff like that. So we appreciate that effort. We'll get it done, I'm trusting. I've been this guy that's saying to everybody, we can't afford to lose this. I mean, y'all are crazy if you're going to think you're going to kill the golden goose, but common sense is not easy to find these days. But, okay. And what do you want us to do on Thursday night to give you
Just
the
make a
okay?
motion to go along with the other cities on the final number if we come to one.
Okay.
It may be 26%, it may be 32%.
Do I have to sign that too?
When it becomes
I
finalized,
do.
yes, I believe the mayor will have to come back and be voted on.
Yeah, even if you're just giving him authority within which to negotiate, it
Still
has to come back before you, before it's finalized.
Well, can they give me authority to sign it? Because we may not have that time coming to end.
Well, what I would prefer is that you have a called council meeting.
So yes,
I'm
council,
saying.
you may have to have a called council meeting on December the
That's a good
30th
idea.
or December 25th, which is Christmas. So just know that. We have no idea. We're not trying to play games with them. We said time and time, let's get this deal done. Let's stay here until we get it done. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
The county commissioner's number, did you just Google that and find that information?
You can go to their website, I believe.
I can give you the phone number for that. I've
I
pulled up their
believe Cal's
agenda.
already working on it, probably.
It's 770-267-1301.
Thank you. And the meeting tomorrow again is at 6 p.m.
6 o'clock,
At the historic courthouse.
Okay, thank you.
We'll pull it up hopefully before we leave tonight.
second floor.
Go under government, Kyle, and their agendas. Uh-huh. Top link right there.
Click on that agenda.
Hey Kyle, make sure you're only clicking approve links or you might get a bad email from somebody.
Here it is, number 3.1. There's the phone number at the bottom too.
Can we send them angry fax? Send them an angry fax as well.
All this number.
Thank you.
Okay, is it a misleading, is that all, Danny?
That's it, I was gonna stay up here for the next one. I'm gonna let Robin do most of it though.
Is anybody else besides me needs a 3-minute break?
You do that.
You do? Good, thank God. Can we take a 3-minute break? Either that, or we have to call the moppers
We
in.
didn't even get to that yet. Yeah. 3-minute break, is that what you said?
Question?
Yes, we're moving on to tree ordinance. I mean, yeah,
Okay,
trees
you
now.
gonna do the tree ordinance now, or move to
It
Robin?
says rules
Oh,
of
yeah, we can
decorum.
talk about, well, that's under Robin.
Okay.
Rules of decorum, I'm still under me, since y'all want to add this. Before I forget, and I'll say this Thursday, but Christy Ash just got an award, or a certification, best way to put it. She went to, I can never remember the acronym. What is it, Christy?
GLGPA,
It's Georgia
local,
Employee.
government personnel
Yep.
association.
And she became, I guess, certified HR manager? It's Human Resources, so congratulations to that, Chris. She
Yeah,
was there last
great.
week. I'm gonna show the picture next, or Thursday. Don't you worry, I got pictures, don't you worry. So. Okay, it was asked to talk about trees, so we had a long discussion last month, but I think it's open back up discussion. Just to tell you where I'm at on it, we did meet with Precision a couple of weeks ago, several weeks ago, along with the retention ponds. We're having a meeting actually Wednesday to talk about retention ponds and to see where they came up with so far with the tree ordinances. We've talked about what I've told them was we were going to look at tree ordinances for certain types of zonings, did not want it to be affecting personal property from what I was understanding from last meeting. But we want to look at trees over 24 inches, hardwoods, maybe 30 inches for softwood, pines. And then come up with a canopy size, not canopy size. After talking with them, they prefer to do a canopy versus a diameter because they say it's easier to manage as far as a management tool. I did talk with a arborist. He agreed with that, but Precision does have an arborist on staff who is actually on the tree board for Gwinnett County, and his recommendation was don't do what Gwinnett did because it's so complicated that you had to have a degree to understand that law, which we all, I think, would agree on that. I certainly would after reading the 60-something pages. So we're meeting with them Wednesday to come back for you, hopefully in December, with a recommendation. But if that needs to change, I need to know now before, so we can make changes before I present you a draft. So I'll open up the floor to you.
Well, from the notes I've seen from everybody, we're very reluctant, tell me if I'm wrong, we're very reluctant to affect an individual's decision on trees on their property.
That's my position. Yep.
And we would like not to have large swatches, tell me if I'm wrong, of land clear cut. That's the second goal. What do we need to do to get those two things done?
Yep.
And can we just do something with developers? Is that,
Well, the thing is, we discovered that there's gonna be a loophole.
there will be.
So if I own a big piece of property and I know that there's somebody that's potential to go commercial or high density, and knowing that the tree ordinance will, the developers will have to adhere to that, that the thought would be like, somebody whispering, hey, you're gonna cut all those trees down and then we'll make a deal. So I understand, so I'm very respectful of the opinions of not wanting to infringe on the person's rights, but we still have to come up with a way to close that loophole. Is there?
I don't believe we're gonna be able to, unless you infringe big time. I just don't see it.
I completely agree. I mean, you cannot limit somebody's right to sell their property and make a profit to a developer. You just can't. It's infringement of right. I mean, you've seen my emails. I've been pretty vocal about it. I mean, there is probably nobody that likes a tree better than me. But if you want to have big trees on your property, that's your right on your property, whether you're a developer or not, whether you're a commercial person or not. I feel really strongly about it. And we can't close the loophole. The only way that we can even talk about trees is if somebody wants to get a certain kind of zoning, it requires a certain amount of tree canopy or whatever we are talking about. But permits or you can't cut your trees down, it's really no different than the converse. What if we decided as a body that trees were a liability and so anybody could only have 2 trees on their property? well, everybody'd scream about it, because you can't tell me I have to cut my trees down. It's the same thing it's the yin and the yang. You just can't do
Well,
it.
to what she just said, all right, so the developer comes in, so I clear cut my land, he buys it. So we're talking about tree canopy. They will have to plant trees. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think what I'm understanding from both of you is if I'm the private property owner and I have, say, 100 acres, and right now, if it's in residential, I can clear cut, nothing happens. But now I'll sell it to
XYZ.
developer over here and say, hey, if you get the property, you're gonna have to abide by this zoning, but if I do it, I don't. How do we fix that? Is that what you're saying?
That's what
right?
I'm saying, but
Yeah.
now to
think
speak
we
to it,
will.
there's
So-
a,
Don't think we will.
Yeah, I will ask, see what Precision has came up with. I know, like I said in the last meeting, the county has it where you couldn't ask for zoning for 2 years, but then now you get into tracking it. Because you just can't go look at something and say, yeah, that's been cut for 2 years now, or that's been cut for 6 years. That's what I think what Ann's referring to is you would have to put a permit on everybody in order to track it, and that's what we don't want, what I'm hearing.
And it's not
So-
enforceable, I don't believe.
Rob and I'll turn out, how do you
Let
close the
me-
loophole?
Let me just ask the one more question, what I was saying. So I clear cut my land,
Mm-hmm.
and then I sell it to a developer. So he's gonna come in and he asks for you said, I think you were wanting to do it to PUVs and a
Yeah,
couple others.
whatever the zone.
All right, so, but our tree ordinance says you have to have a certain canopy size. Will he have to then, what I'm asking, does that developer then have to come in and plant those trees to accompany?
You could, what we were referring to is existing
I know.
canopy. But if, say, it's clear cut, and you say for all PUVs and high density, you have to have a minimum canopy, yes, to my knowledge, you can, because we do that now. We require so many trees per lot. You can make it more. We just have to come up with that number because there's only so much trees that can go on a piece of property without, overcrowd. I know where's Tim at? He stepped out. You remember, Robbie, is it two per?
I believe it's
per
two.
house. And it has to be a
Believe it's
2-inch ball, certain type of tree. So to answer your question, Melanie, yes, I believe we can make the canopy size requirement, but it's gonna be, 20 years from now, it'll grow up to that, but it's gonna take 50 years. I
I
think
don't
what
think
we're
you
trying to
can-
do is save those.
Yeah, I don't think you can do a canopy size, because I think you're gonna end up having to do 2 trees per X number
Well,
of whatever.
they have a canopy size for a 2-inch tree. It says, there's, what I've been told from PPI is, that's Precision Planting, is they make software to do a study, a satellite study. It says, hey, this existing land has 68% canopy versus going out there and counting every tree.
Right.
And measuring it. So most cities do a canopy size, and it's a 2-inch is 400 square feet, a 6-inch caliper tree is 900 square feet, and anything over whatever is I think the max was 1,600 square feet. So it would have to be something like that, but you're not gonna buy a 15-inch caliper tree.
Right. Well, and conversely, somebody may have a piece of property that wasn't clear cut. It's just pasture. I mean,
Right.
I
And then
know.
are you gonna make them adhere to it?
Right, so I mean, it's,
Is there any way we can do it based on incentives? Like say, if you don't cut down these trees, you get an incentive on some building cost or something. Instead of making it more as a punishment, can we try and incentivize them to want to keep them?
Sure. There's only so much we can incentivize, but yes. So I was about to say that if I was buying a piece of property from Jay, and I know he has a lot of tree canopies, I'm gonna say, hey, a tree growing saves me money.
right.
Now, I don't
Yeah.
have to replace, if it's a, say, a 30-inch tree, and it's, say, it would take 20 trees, well, 20 times $250, it's profitable, or I just don't cut that tree down. Maybe that's what we can say, but at the end of the day, it's their decision to cut or not to cut it.
Right.
But if we don't have an ordinance in place that says anything,
Right.
then it's a free-for-all.
Mhm.
So we do still need to pursue, I feel, the tree ordinance, at least see what they come back
Right, I
with.
agree with
We
you
can
because-
change
right.
everything that anything
I mean,
in
we-
that we don't like.
We do have somewhat of a tree ordinance for, you have to plant this back, but we don't have where it says you have to preserve this. that's what we're trying to fix.
Right.
But when you say it can only be for this zonings, now you getting a little bit hard of a management tool for staff to come up with, is like, how do we manage Joe, citizen over here? I almost said something different, but I caught myself. I don't know if you noticed that. Versus somebody else that clear cuts everything.
Danny,
Yes.
I'm sorry, have you asked Precision specifically about this loophole?
Yes.
And what has their response been
We're meeting Wednesday.
about that issue?
Well, about trees as a whole, yeah. Because Bill gave them a couple of marching orders when we met, and his, not, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but was he wanted to see it on large developments, overlay districts, PUVs, but he didn't want to see it on individual property owners that may have 5 acres, 3 acres, 1 acre. He wanted it to be on more of a commercial development. When I say commercial, not a commercial zoning, but a mass residential development, like your overlays, your PUVs. Bill, jump in.
Correct, no, that's correct. And, you know, it also goes back to, it seems like an easy thing. I mean, I think Ann said it last time. If you ask anyone up here on this bench that, do we want to preserve trees? Yes, we do, but trying to figure out how we're going to get there is still quite difficult.
Would that open us up legally if we only do it for the big properties? Would then they be able to come back at us and say it's discriminatory for whatever reason?
I'm going to give a really broad 30,000-foot answer to say no, because a larger commercial development is different than a small subdivision, right? If you get into what you're talking about as equal protection, they have to be exactly the same. I do think, though, and this is what I was saying earlier to all of you, is that as we go through it, each part of this ordinance, we are going to have to, I will look at very closely. I would assume Precision will as well, because there are legal pitfalls that you as a city could fall into if we're not very careful about it. Having said that, it's doable, right? But each distinction that you as a city make, or that Precision makes within what they're going to present, we're going to have to look at issues like that, for sure.
But now say the development gets built and they have all the trees saved that they have to save, and then the homeowners start coming in and buying houses, then they can just cut their own trees down.
Potentially,
So it
yes.
still might be.
But
not-
then again, you could tweak it so that that everyone in that neighborhood has to have it, but then that's gonna, how are you gonna enforce
That'll
that
be
as
HOA,
well?
and we've already had that discussion before.
And how is it okay to infringe on somebody who has a big tract of lands rights, but not somebody that has an acre? I mean, it's just, I mean, my position at this point is, I think we do X number of trees per acre like we do in subdivisions, and we ditch the tree ordinance. How much money are we gonna spend on it? How much money are we gonna spend in Precision time, county time, city time, Robin's legal time, reviewing it, going over it and over it and over it? And is it gonna be something that we ultimately wanna do? Why should, like, Tom Carter owns right here with these pecans, right? What happens with the pecans with the tree ordinance? He's got a big enough piece of property. Ann Jones, who's down off of Covington, like, she wants to sell, so because she's had a piece of property in her family for generations, we're gonna hog tie her, not literally, but she will not be able to sell her property for a maximum amount of profit because we think she should have trees on it. That's wrong. I mean, I feel really strongly about it. I mean, if you want to have trees, go find your own plant and plant them in your own yard. I don't think I have the right to tell somebody they can't cut down one of their own trees that they have on their property that they pay property tax for.
What about this? What about on large developments? Your BDVs, your RM22 overlays, your RM6s, because those are large tracts of land, that in their green space, they must maintain X amount of percentage of canopy size.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was thinking, because it's like, I'm thinking about my neighborhood, and, you know, we have the one or two trees per house.
Right.
I mean, and what's that gonna do? They're gonna come back later and cut it down. I mean, I'd cut mine down right now if my neighbor would let me. You know, but if you had a block of trees, or if you wanted to share that percentage somewhere, around the retention area, or like, that seems reasonable to me, if you want to secure a percentage of a piece of land.
Yeah, I mean, if
So
we,
do
if some-
y'all agree with the percentage on the green space? Because the work's already been, I mean, we've already paid Precision, and if I had to guess, it's gonna be around my limit. Because I told him, I said, you have $7,500.
which limit? I'm just kidding.
So I would say this, we spent the money. Let's see what they say Wednesday. Thursday, I'll come back and say, hey, this is what they recommend. Give me some tweaks, and then come December, hopefully we can vote it, because we really need to lift this moratorium, because we
agree.
have
Yeah.
a lot of current businesses. Chick-fil-A's one that wants to expand, but it requires a home, land disturbance permit.
Right, and rates are rising. I mean, it's gonna
Yes.
cost our citizens a lot of
Yeah.
money for us to drag our feet.
Is that,
So you'll have the meeting Wednesday, we'll have some guidance put together, we can talk about it, Thursday, and if we're going in the right direction, keeping it right scale, then we'll at that point decide to move forward or not. How's that?
y'all good with that?
I'm fine with that.
But I am hopeful that our goal is that we don't have somebody come in and clear cut a big amount of land and all the surrounding neighbors pay the price for it until it gets built. I think that's what everybody wants.
I think that's what we all want,
Yeah,
but
I know.
I don't think we can enforce it. You pay for the land, you pay for the privilege to do whatever you want on it. Sucks. Expand.
Not liberty to discuss, sir.
I just feel for those neighbors.
I
that
heard
are
they're going to
surrounded.
expand.
Well,
Drive-through.
But to that end, Skip, you've got, if a developer's coming in for a set of property, he's got process where he's gonna cut the trees, he's gonna chip it all up, he's using some of that what he's chipped up as mulch to cover areas. He's gonna have to keep other areas planted, when it's not being in use. And so they have that practice. I don't know if you'll ever get down to that path where you can say, well, don't work in this area until you get to that point. The only way you can do that is if it's phased, if it's a phased subdivision.
I get it. We just got some neighbors right now in one particular development that are not happy.
Okay. I'll have a report hopefully Thursday. But yeah, hopefully we can, the more you tell me Thursday, the better it is for December, because we really need to get this, letting these people, current businesses, do a permits for their businesses. I'll stay at first rules of decorum as well, that Rob and I will address both. Real quick, Mayor want me to tell y'all, meeting with the hotel people again. They're still saying they're gonna build a Best Western, and they're gonna break ground in February of 2023. They will not meet the current tree ordinance, nor will they meet the retention pond, because they've already had their plans in, so just know that. And then we're meeting with another group that wants to bring another hotel here. So.
I believe that's one of the reasons why the first group
Could be. But we did reach out to the first group and let them know that, hey, this is going on, to be good stewards, and let them know, so.
I was told today they are 150% sure that
We'll see.
sometimes people tell you what they know you want to hear, No. Okay. Very good. Will you need another break then?
Nope.
Okay, you're watching your clock.
I'm just keeping bowling here till 9.
Just for Jay.
On the election signs after tomorrow?
Well, I will let code enforcement know to look at that. Robbie, you address that? If they're not in the right of way, we can't touch them. They're political signs.
Just one guy here was saying that white guy, Colin's been up there forever.
I'll let them know. Good old political signs. I love them.
No, I'm just OCD.
I do not.
I would think if they're still there by next weekend, they ought to be gone. But some of them come and get them so they can run again with them.
Just know, state law says if they're not in the right of way, they can stay there
Yeah.
to the end of time.
That includes subdivisions too,
Good old
doesn't it?
politicians.
You can't go into subdivisions either.
If they're in the right of way, I can. If it's a public street, I can.
Okay. Okay, can we move
Keep
on
that
to
right
the meat of our meeting? Okay, we have Robin Webb coming up now as the city attorney. You have 1 hour, Robin.
Smile.
Gary AJ. Just kidding. No, Danny, when I got the agenda, and I said, wait a minute, what am I talking about with rules of decorum? He explained it to me. So you have in your packet the resolution that you all adopted in November of last year, and it's...
Well, that was the previous council. 4 members are still on it.
Yes, I meant you as in the city.
As a body.
Yeah, yeah. And that resolution, as you will see, specifically talks about public comment during city council meetings, how long that comment will be allowed, at what portion, and at what meeting, frankly. And my understanding is there's been some discussion about potentially changing that requirement of the rules of decorum resolution. In other words, the amount of time allotted and for what meetings and when in the meeting. So I am looking for guidance from you all as to what, if anything, you would like to change about that.
Well, personally, I did not even think about this. We've been doing it the same way with the same time limits for well over 10 years.
Well, this particular one was for a particular situation, is why this arose out of that, but, so I personally am all for the citizens being allowed to speak, especially like maybe tonight, I don't know, maybe the tree ordinance, they may have an input on that, and I'd like to hear the citizens' input on that. So I personally would like to have the opportunity for citizens to speak at both the work session and the council meetings, if it's something that is pertinent to what they are, because maybe some people had to work tonight and they can be here Thursday or whatever, or Monday they heard something they didn't like, they go home, they do their research, they want to come back and present their facts. So I like it. I like the way the other night Planning and Zoning did it, for example. They had their meeting, and after every case, they pretty much let it go to a back and forth dialogue with people, and people could speak again as their rebuttal to their rebuttal, you know, until finally everybody was satisfied, and then they voted. And so I know there has to be some sort of limit. Can't sit here for, you know, all night, obviously, just because you can beat a dead horse. But I want the people to feel that this is their city, and they have a right to give their input and to get an answer. And then if they didn't like that answer, then they can also come back. So I really would like to see us be able to allow some more of that back and forth, maybe, you know, on certain issues that are relevant.
Why do we have a resolution?
The one that's in front of you?
Yeah.
Because, as Melanie alluded to, there was some back and forth between, trying to think of how to say
I understand.
this.
I-
Okay,
It's because
so-
it's a rule that the city makes, and when you make rules, you have to do it by a resolution.
And the other thing is, Mayor, you alluded to the fact that public comment at the end of the council meeting has been going on for a number of years. That's because, I forget which mayor started, was it?
Dan Curry, I think.
Long time
Right
before
now.
then.
That is not something that you are required to do. That's not
Right.
in your ordinances.
Only
It's not in your resolutions. It's just been like something that's been handed down. Just as, generally speaking, the work session is when the council discusses issues amongst itself, as you did tonight. There is no requirement, and we're not saying you can't do it, but there is no requirement to open it up to the public at all, with the exception, and I think this is what you're leading to with the planning commission, zoning hearings. This is why sometimes I will interrupt and say you need to open it up to people who are for and against. That's under state law. You do have to let individuals,
For each case.
yes, for each case, have the opportunity to speak for or against.
That's the only one.
That's the only one you're required to do.
Tax increase, public hearing, right? Yes.
But that happens at a,
Yeah, public
yes,
hearing,
like
yeah.
you're
Oh, I thought
doing
you were
a
talking-
separate public hearing.
I would like to propose something to the council
Okay.
and see if we can't vote on it. But I would like to see us, I can understand people wanting to speak before a vote is taken. I get it. I've always gotten it. The thing is, all of our emails and all of our phone numbers are public information, and they're readily available for anybody who wants to contact any one of us. That's true. I would like to go to a 5-minute speaking time limit with a total of 45 minutes for the whole meeting. And I would like to do it after the work session, which means we do it after the work session, we will not do it after the regular council meeting. That way, they get to say their piece, give us their ideas before the council votes on it. That's my thoughts, y'all.
Still get to speak at zoning cases, though.
Except, sure,
And public hearings at the time of the agenda, not after, so.
just like it is now.
Right.
And also, if you read that resolution, it says that the presiding person is to make sure all those specifications are met. And I'm going to do that if it stays that way. But that's up to the council. I mean, if y'all want to do it, go at it.
The one thing I would like to say is, and I looked at you, Mayor, during the meeting tonight and said, why are these people? Because the danger without it being, like, I understand what you're saying, Melanie, that you want people to be able to talk. I have no problem with that at all. And you've been in here in meetings when I have said to people that they're out of order, and you see that people are cross-talking to each other. That happened tonight, not in an ugly way at all, but then they were starting to get a little, and then no one is paying attention to what you all are saying and doing, to the point where I looked at the mayor and was like, what is happening out here? My point being that no matter what mechanism or what you decide to allow, that there's an orderly procession to the comments. You know, maybe you open it up at whatever time you decide during the meeting, end of the meeting, I don't know, and they come up and they make, you know, they talk. What I don't want to see, because it will distract from the business that you all are trying to do up there, is people shouting from the audience, or not shouting, but, you know, just making comments
Sure.
and then cross-talking. It becomes difficult for you all, I think.
Well, even when we're not asking them to talk, you see them out there talking among themselves, and I know sometimes people that are sitting in front of them or behind them are annoyed because they can't hear what we're saying up here because of the people that they're talking. Now, I don't know how we're gonna keep them from talking, but.
Teachers have been asking that question for generations, right?
But it is annoying.
Yeah, and I think it becomes, it becomes difficult for, you know, them to be heard and for y'all to make your decisions. So that would be the only parameter I would put on it.
I know the county makes you sign up beforehand. Now, is that something that we could look at, having them sign up, make it a really easy process online where they have to put in their
Absolutely.
name and address, stuff like that, and then they get, I don't know, if we have like a roll call or something, but then, you know.
I don't mind the signing up, but I think that that's gonna impede somebody's natural ability to respond to something they might hear. And I would hate to restrict somebody that had a good comment because they just thought of something while they're sitting here listening. The other thing, Skip, I like your proposed plan. I think 5 minutes is a long time. I think 3 has been working okay, and 45 minutes is a really long time.
Well, right now it's 30.
So,
So if we go to 5 minutes, you got to extend it somehow.
well, I was saying, I was just thinking 3 minutes
Keep
and
30
30
minutes
minutes
to go to
would be
45.
fine.
I'm fine with either
But are
one.
you
I-
gonna give them, so they get up, they speak, we answer, or whatever we say, do they get an opportunity to ask again or say something?
They get their 3 or they get their 5 minutes.
They get
All
their
right, so if
time.
they ask a question for a minute and a half and we talk, then they can still continue to talk. It's not gonna be you were already spoke.
I don't know how to deal with that. We give them 5 minutes, they can ask questions, but I don't think we should be responding during their time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the purpose of this is to get feedback, not to get it, I mean, there've been plenty of meetings that we've had where somebody has stood up and it goes into this back and forth, which is not, for me, not the spirit of what we're trying to do. I want to get, what I heard was that people felt like it was disingenuous to give comments after the vote was taken. That's what I'm trying to go after. So if somebody had an issue or a comment about the tree ordinance, giving it Thursday night after we vote, it's kind of a waste. I get that. But at least if they get their 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever we decide on the work session, they've gotten up to say their piece, but it's still not an opportunity to have the back and forth dialogue. I think that is where it gets a little dangerous, just from an ability to keep it consistent and controlled.
I think we're very flexible. We've been given opportunities to our citizens. I mean, if you want to go to, I mean, not, if you want to talk about what Walton County does, they allow you to sign up, you get your 3 minutes, and it happens before the council meeting, the commission meeting starts, so it happens before that. You say what you're going to say, they don't respond, and you're done. I mean, I saw Representative Tom Kirby one day get up there, and he brought an issue up, said it, and as soon as he was done, he walked out the door. It was interesting. But in our case, whether we do it work session night or council night, I like the fact that we give the opportunity either to talk about what we've done or to bring something else to us. But the reason I think that it's probably better to just have it after the council meeting is on the work session, we discuss these things, and then when we're done, there's opportunities right after the meeting to talk to us. There's email, there's phone calls, there's lots of ways to talk to us. It's not that we're not open to anyone. So, I mean, my position is I kind of like it the way it is, but I'm willing to change if that's the way the body feels. The other thing is it is one thing when people start asking questions and talking just like happened today. It wasn't a big deal because it's a small crowd, we are talking, but if for some reason you answer one person's questions and then you don't answer another person's questions, then it's at some point you've kind of, you might have made somebody feel bad. And, that's not the point either. The point is for us to talk, do our business and move forward. So, and my feeling is I like it the way it is at the moment, but I'm willing to change if there's a better way.
Just to jump in here, the only thing I don't like is I don't want to cap it. I just don't feel, I feel if we're ever in a situation where there's more than 9 people, 9-5 is 45 minutes, right? I just think we should not cap it. Let's just let it go. If there's a lot of redundancy, then we should say, hey, look, it's getting a little redundant here, but let's not cap it.
Let's not cap what?
Yeah, because what if there's 15 people and only the first 9, and the 6 people get gypped out? So, 3-5 minutes, whatever. I'm good. I just don't like the cap. First of all,
I sincerely believe the perception is pretty darn close to reality. And the perception is from our citizens that they don't feel like their input counts because it's after the vote. That's true. I mean, that's their perception. And I don't know that we can change that unless we just change when they can speak. So,
I do wonder though, because I know a lot of us will obviously know the code or the new resolution. A lot of the citizens that do come here quite often will know it. But the citizens that come just once here or there, how are they going to know it? Is there any way we can get it put on the wall somewhere or something like that? Just so, because sometimes it's like we have some new people here today that don't know the code of decorum, and we could just point up there if they're trying to raise their hand or something. We could politely have somebody gesture to the wall or something, so then they know they can have their time at the end.
So it'd be right before adjournment on the work session. That's what I would prefer.
Yep.
Because a lot of the questions may be answered during the work session.
Yeah.
You got to remember, the work session is for y'all too, as much as it is for them. If you put in the beginning of the work session, they may speak on a zoning case that law says that the applicant speaks first. So if I get up here to speak against the zoning and chief's the applicant, I just violated state law. That's why I feel it needs to go at the end of the work session.
Yeah.
You haven't made any votes. Let them talk for 3 minutes. If 20 people want to talk, 20 people talks.
Yeah.
But I would say that you
that.
say, if there's a representative that's representing an association, let that president or whoever speak in your behalf. If you have anything new to add, you may speak, but we've done it several times, you start getting redundant. You're just here to speak, but that's something. But I would say at the end of the adjournment, but they need to state their name for the minutes. It's going to be a public record. So, but we've had that happen where they didn't want to give their name or their address. So. you
Then they
also-
shouldn't be allowed to speak.
So, and I think that's what was supposed to happen, but they still spoke. So it can get contentious. We've seen it. But I think that's what we're trying to stop. So I
So-
would say at the end of the work session.
So consensus sounds like end of the work session, either 3 or 5 minutes? I don't,
Let's do 4, and it's right in the middle.
huh? What'd you say?
Compromise
4,
at
perfect.
4.
4 minutes,
4
great.
minutes, right in
4
the
minutes
middle.
is great. Anybody
About
who wants,
decision maker.
anybody who wants to speak can do so even, and we're gonna try to keep it to 30 minutes, but if X number of people stand up, then
I don't think we
we're
should
fine
cap
listening
it.
to them.
As long as there's not too much redundancy, I think.
They
it's
have to
fine.
state their name and address when they stand up to speak, but they don't have to sign in. Okay, do you have to state your name?
Address.
At the beginning of when you go to stand up, but you don't have to sign in. And it has to be a relevant thing on the agenda to discuss.
No, city business.
City business, okay.
Right.
Yes.
Just Monday, not Thursday?
Okay,
No,
so,
Monday and
Well-
Thursday.
no, just Monday night.
Just Monday night, yep.
But then,
Unless there's a planning and zoning case that requires it.
Well, the public hearing part, I'm sorry, of the planning and zoning happens in the work session.
Okay.
That is the time when you invite that comment during for
But-
rezonings.
And if they stand up at public comment and want to say something, they can't say something on the public zoning because it won't be fair at that point.
Well, every time a rezoning comes before you all as decision makers in the works, you have to have a public hearing. That public hearing, you have to specifically allow anyone to speak for or against that rezoning. You have to do it for every case.
But it has to be the person that's doing.
But that's during the case
That's during
review.
this case.
Oh, yeah, they present the case first. I'm sorry, I
But then when
misunderstood you.
go to public comment, you can't go back and talk about it at that point.
You could.
Sure,
yeah, why
Okay.
couldn't you?
you could.
Yeah, you
Okay.
definitely could. And people do it all the time. They'll come and, say, I don't agree with that vote, but it's already done and voted on. The difference with the rezone is that you have to allow the citizens to comment during in connection with presentation of that case in particular.
But if you do it on Thursday night too, then you get that issue. If you do it at the end, what's the point? Because you've already voted.
Right.
If you do it at the beginning and it is a
Can't.
public hearing, there we are again.
Right.
They're speaking before the applicant.
But can we'll leave the public comment
The
section
community
on the
feedback?
community feedback for Thursday.
Community feedback, sure. It's not part of the agenda though.
In other words, I just would like to see it moved to Monday, or the work session, but
Yep.
other than
I
that,
agree with that.
I'm open.
I mean, what's the point if I come up here to complain on something you voted on and you already voted on it? I mean,
Well, that's
Right.
where
I
we're
guess
already
I'd,
at.
That's why we're
meet you
here.
at the end of the meeting and
Right.
get on to you, which happens. But I think the point of it is talk to y'all before you vote.
Right.
But Jay, you said you'd like
Wish
to
they could
have it
do-
at both meetings, correct? Well, I mean, because I'm sitting there saying, if they hear something tonight, like I said a while ago, they go home, they do their research, they get their information that they want to present, but yet, when they're closed, you can't speak on it Thursday. You could have only spoke on it when it was hot and fresh
I would
on
have to
Monday.
think if they want to speak, they need to have done their research before Monday night.
Okay.
Well, and I also think anybody that's going to take the time to do the research on Monday, after the Monday meeting, are the same people that are going to reach out to us in other ways, email or phone, to give feedback. I think that the people that are doing that research are going to do that anyway.
Could everybody live with 5 minutes? Monday night, no cap.
I thought we decided 4.
Or
think
we can
we
go
need
to
to do
4
4
minutes.
minutes.
Whatever y'all want to do, y'all gonna vote. I don't
It's
even
right
vote.
in, it's right in the middle.
It doesn't matter.
I know it.
5 minutes is a long time.
One thing I will caution is you're going to have a hard time, I think, if you are going to try and cut off redundancy in the comments. Because, think about it, if you let 10 people say the same thing and number 11 comes along and you're like, I don't want to hear you say the same thing we've heard, that is going to become an issue for number 11. And that's why some places will limit the amount of time spoken to a topic, and then people have to divide up that time. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm saying, though, if you do it the way that you're talking about, which is fine, you're not going to be able to limit speakers based on redundancy.
So 10 people can speak about the same thing if they want to.
You'll be listening to 50 minutes potentially of the same thing, which is fine, but I just think it'd be I don't think you're going to be able to build in a limit on the redundancy.
Okay.
I mean, we'll face it when we have to.
Is there not something we can put in there to prevent that, or not?
You know, listen, Skip and I have been here 11, 12 years now. We're just not gonna have that. If we do, we do. I mean, we gotta do something, we do.
So,
Microphone.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
You
on.
just, I just am not going
Oh,
to be
yes,
able to
ma'am.
put that into the
so 5
resolution.
minutes Monday before we adjourn.
Correct.
50,000 people want to speak, 50,000 people speak. One speaks, one speak. Okay. There you go, Robin. Easy peasy.
Okay.
Is there anything else in the decorum we
And
need
you
to
guys are
change?
sure,
You were
we don't
saying they
wanna,
have to give their name and address.
we don't wanna
If they
stop it
refuse
after
to do
45
that,
minutes or an
what
hour.
Then that is
I just
some-
don't think that many people usually speak.
Well, I don't either, but what you gonna do if they do?
Well, what if it happens once every
You're gonna
4
have to
years? I'm
figure
good with
out-
that.
What if it happens every
Was in
meeting after
favor
the
of not
night?
Well,
allowing
that's
those
fine
people to
too.
speak.
Those of us that's been here since 8 o'clock in the morning.
Makes it tough. It's y'all's vote. I mean, that's okay, whatever y'all wanna do. I'm just,
Okay, I have a question. If someone refuses to give their name and their address,
No address, just their name.
or their name, if they refuse to give their name, are we still gonna allow them to speak?
No.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, that's just
yeah, I agree.
part of the process.
More minutes. No, I was talking to Ann on that one. I
Okay, you
have
need
2 more
anything else
items to
from the
discuss.
council?
Just clarifying, you want this Thursday?
well,
Okay.
we wanna, I think, we wanna make it effective in January. Well, December, we got all these zonings, and you have to do that anyway at the work session on each of those issues.
Well, we'll be possibly talking about trees, we'll be talking about other things in December, so if it's ready.
If you can
let's
get it
just-
done, December.
Oh, I can. I just wanted to make sure that's what, okay, yeah,
I mean,
I'll have
I'll-
it for you Thursday.
Fine with me.
I got
But
a
I can-
request for apartments for zoning of 400 units per acre. I'm just kidding.
Anybody come to the December
I got
5th
5
meeting,
minutes.
bring your lunch.
Bring
Dinner, maybe lunch too. Okay, that's the resolution, and then we won't know till Thursday night if everybody accepts it or get a vote. We need a vote on it, right? Okay. Okay. Anything else from anyone? Oh, tonight, we don't have to do that. Meeting is adjourned. Have a great evening.
Make a motion.
Can we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Hang on, before you do, did we approve to do this? I can't remember, it's been so long ago. That's that letter, did we approve that? Or does that go on Thursdays, we do that?
Thursday.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Thursday. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those